Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, welcoming you to episode 329 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. I'm glad to have you here. A small technical hitch, and Spreaker lost the originally recorded show, so this is actually being recorded immediately following the original live show, and I guess there won't be anybody in the chat room because they're not expecting the show to go out live at this time. But of course, for all my listeners who listen to the recordings or listen to the rebroadcasts on the various channels that kindly rebroadcast my show, it doesn't matter when it's recorded, just so long as it goes out there. Got a lot of interesting topics. There's been a lot going on over this last week, and actually there's so much going on. When I finish a show, I think, the next week's going to be a quiet week. There won't be very much to talk about. And somebody's got pedal to the metal here, because it's, just so much going on, so many things. And of course, we had the DNC and all the fallout on that. Donald Trump getting caught up in a lot of things, and I've got some comments about that later in the show. They're obviously out to get him, and they're laying the traps to me very clearly, and unfortunately Donald's kind of falling into their traps, which is unfortunate. I wish he would just focus on the things that he's good at and not worry about all these attacks. He can just brush them off and move on. But, Donald is Donald, and if he wasn't Donald, we wouldn't perhaps be so for him. And, of course, I think the biggest thing over the last week is this total fuss that everybody's trying to make about the Khan family, the Gold Star family, and whether or not Donald reacted correctly to what they said is one thing. But I would like to quote someone else. I found something on the internet. I'm going to read some of it. It's not everything that this lady put out there, but I want to read a good part of it, and I apologize for reading it. But I think you'll find that, to me, it sums up the way we should be looking at this whole whole Gold Star spat, if you want to call it that. She wrote, "To the Muslim Gold Star father that spoke at the DNC, I have some thoughts on your comments. I am a Blue Star mother. My deepest condolences on the loss of your son. No family should have to endure such a loss. That being said, while your son is a hero, sir, you are not. My son has served 3 tours of combat in the countries you and your family came from. Iraq and Afghanistan were his introduction to adulthood and service to something bigger than our individual selves. He was blown up by an IED set by your countrymen. His Purple Heart is a testament to his love of America and our freedoms. I have suffered through his multiple combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, never knowing from moment to moment if he would return home in a flag-draped coffin. It is torture when a mother wakes up to this day after day and sees the atrocities happening over there on the news and being helpless to change a thing. My comments to you will probably offend you. I do not apologize. These things need to be said. Unlike you, I could never use my son's death as a pawn piece in support of a woman that has left America's treasure, Hilaya's own words, to die unaided in Benghazi. That same woman that says vile things to her military details that are there to protect her. You, sir, are supposed to be a witness to your son's bravery and sacrifice. Instead, you stood on a stage and promoted the woman that upholds the very people that killed your son. You became a political pawn that promotes pandering to our enemy. You desecrated your son's memory by your words. You did not utter one word of outrage at anyone but Donald Trump. Are you forgetting that Donald Trump did not kill your son? He had nothing whatsoever to do with these wars. Your son's memory should mean more to you than 5 minutes of fame on the stage of the party that voted to send your son to war. The same party that for 8 years has denied and cheated our veterans out of their deserved medical care, who for the last 3 years has cut our veterans' pay. Your son died for that Constitution you so carelessly waved around on national TV in support of the very party that exists to destroy it. As a soldier's mother, no one could ever speak for me. I find your outrage artificial. I find your party affiliation offensive. I find your wife's silence atrocious and offensive. I find you a political fool. I find your son to have been your greatest accomplishment, and you, sir, have dishonored him. I hope you memorize that pocket constitution, so you will understand what it means to be a real American and a hero. You are not one. You were used. Your son would not be proud of you. My only hope is that when my son goes a 4th time to combat radical Islam terrorists, and he will know that his mother never stood submissively silent about an American hero. Yes, your son was a hero that could not be manipulated. You, sir, are a weak-minded fool. I would love to hear your thoughts this morning about the 1,500 plus American soldiers on the airbase in Turkey being held as basic hostages as I type. Not a word from this president or party you adore, or the media that so thoroughly manipulated and used you and your wife. So, what say you, sir? What will you say to a blue or gold star family if these heroes die? In my opinion, you are a coward. You will say nothing. Pretty strong stuff there that this lady said, and as I said, I didn't even read the whole post. It was a little bit longer, but very, very strong stuff. Now, in there she mentioned this thing about Turkey being soldiers on the airbase being held hostage. So what's going on in Turkey? Well, here we go. Apparently, over the weekend, a massive force of pro-Erdogan armed police, supported by heavy vehicles, enforced a lockdown at the Incirlik airbase, meaning that no one could enter or leave the base. So why would 700 pro-Erdogan armed police with heavy vehicles, by the way, the heavy vehicles were dump trucks apparently, why would they surround the base and then threaten to go into the base? Now, what can be seen from video and reports coming from there, that they were indeed heavy dump trucks and they were getting ready to enter the base. Now, according to the Turkish Minister for European Affairs, this is just a routine safety inspection. However, a local newspaper raised concerns that the closing might have been tied to a claim made by Erdogan's regime that there was another attempt at a second coup, and they were trying to prevent that. I wonder. In actual fact, the headline was "The massive presence of armed police supported by heavy vehicles calls into question the Turkish government's classified information." But that's sort of very scary. If they're getting ready to invade the base, it seems like, with these heavy dump trucks, that wouldn't be good news. Now, this was at the weekend. I haven't heard anything since then. I've looked for it. Most of the mainstream news sources are keeping very quiet about this. You can find it here and there, but there's not a lot about it anywhere. Interestingly enough, during the coup itself, power to the base was also cut off by the Erdogan group because they claimed that the base was supporting the rebels, and in actual fact the Turkish commander of the base, a General Van, was actually arrested on treason charges because the Turkish authorities claimed that one of the rogue F-16 planes that had taken part in the rebellion had landed and refueled at the Incirlik base. We don't know if that's true, but let's face it, the Turkish government is the Muslim Brotherhood, and can we trust anything that the Muslim Brotherhood say? Apparently, the general had attempted to seek asylum in the U.S. I can understand that because probably even if he wasn't involved in the coup, if he wasn't totally in favor of Mr. Erdogan, he knew he was probably going to be arrested, likely killed. Well, he was arrested. I don't know whether he's still alive. But apparently he did attempt to seek asylum in the US, but his plea was apparently rejected. So we have an administration that is very pro-Muslim Brotherhood. There's a coup against the Muslim Brotherhood, and of course by the army, and the army's probably the only one in that part of the world that could do anything about the Muslim Brotherhood. Look at Egypt. So that's why Erdogan is purging the military, because he knows that they are the danger. They are the ones that could strip him of his power. And our Muslim Brotherhood infiltrated administration denies the general asylum. And he's now arrested for treason. Nice administration we have, right? This inspection at the base, so preventing people going in and out, and maybe that's what they were trying to do, came as the Turkish government also was announcing a sweeping military reform, as if arresting thousands of the military isn't a reform that they'd already been carrying out for the last few weeks. But on Saturday they had another sweeping military reform whereby they unveiled plans to scrap all military academies and replace them with a new National Defense University. In other words, something under control of the government. What else can you expect? So, let's quickly go back to the Gold Star spat. I want to talk about that because this came up, and this Gold Star family, or at least the father, spoke at the DNC, and then I think it was on the weekend shows, Trump was asked about it in an interview, and of course Trump opined upon it, and the mainstream media was all over Trump. Well, I think right now it's obvious that the mainstream media, the regressives and the Washington elites are doing everything they can to dig up every topic which is keeping Donald Trump off message. And unfortunately, it is working. Hopefully, Trump will get advice from his team and focus on the topics that work for him. He needs to talk about the economy, jobs, immigration, the Second Amendment. He needs to attack Hillary. That's all. Let his surrogates focus on the Khan family, on election rigging, the fact that 3 more Democrats were fired, had to resign, whatever you want to call it, over the leaked emails. 3 Democrats from the DNC, the CEO, the CFO, and the communications director. So pretty high up people having to leave their post because of that leaked email mess. Well, folks, there's more about the lamestream media ignoring stuff later in the show, but for the moment we have to take a quick break, and I will be back after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
You're listening to Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, broadcast on the internet, and also available at archives.patriotcomelately.us, a proud member of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network. Okay, folks, welcome back from those messages. Just want to remind you, I am cutting down a little bit on the commercials, but I do want to thank a listener who made use of one of the commercials and called for the services, called the 800 number. It was one of the highest paying ones, and so, yes, basically covered the costs of the show for the next 3 months, so my thanks to you for that. And I'm not proud. I can beg as well, so even if you don't want to use those services but you would like to support the show, another way you can do that is to go to the website www.patriotcomelately.us, and at the top of the page there is actually a link to a PayPal donation point where you can send money to the show. Anything you can spare is much appreciated to keep the show on the air. Spreaker doesn't do it for free, and so, you know, as I said, I'm not proud, and if so, I can beg, I can ask, and if you can support me, as I said, much appreciated, as is the listener who used one of the 800 numbers and also helped support the show. Anyway, also a reminder that if you want to contact me, most of my listeners are listening to the recordings or to rebroadcast, so you can't participate in the chat room. So use email, stefan@patriotcomelately.us, or go to the website, use the contact form there, send me a message. And do join us sometime live, because it can be lots of fun in the chat room as well. Lots of interesting discussions going on around topics in the show, and sometimes around topics not in the show. So do join us. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. And as I said, the mainstream media are looking for all different ways to get Donald Trump off topic, and another one which unfortunately they did get him involved with. Now, basically he's right with what he's saying, but it does kind of take him off topic, and I really think that his surrogates should be bringing these side topics up and talking about them, and he should focus on Hillary, and then things like jobs, the economy, immigration, Second Amendment, all the key things. But anyway, so the other topic that they are using to kind of divert his message is the debate schedule, and he's been saying that, he says, okay, things are being rigged, because the debate schedule has come out, and it turns out that there are 3 debates scheduled between him and Hillary, and 2 of those debates are up against NFL games. One on a Sunday night, one on a Monday night. Now, Hillary and the DNC, well, it was Debbie Wasserman and that, Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz. And she had to resign because in part because of that. What they did, first of all, they tried to limit the number of debates. They didn't want Sanders and Hillary chatting a lot. But when they did have to introduce more, they put them up on Saturdays against Saturday Night Football or other football games, trying to make sure that Hillary was not exposed to a lot of TV viewers. And why is that? Because she does really bad in that kind of forum. She comes across as being very cold. She's not a good debater, and of course, I think Donald Trump debating her, he's going to wipe the floor with her. But they're trying to make sure that the American people don't see much of that, because many people will watch football rather than watching Hillary screech on. Now, so Donald Trump made mention of that, sort of said, this is just another example of things being rigged. And then, of course, the elites, the mainstream media, everybody rushes to say, oh, no, but that's totally wrong. This is not something done by the Liberals. This was a bipartisan committee, right? Now, a bipartisan committee, think about it. It's made up of people from both sides. It's not a bipartisan committee. Is not a neutral committee. It's not a bunch of people that have no skin in the game either way. No, bipartisan means it is people from both sides working together. And Newt Gingrich was on Hannity, I think it was tonight, and he was saying this is just a bunch of Washington elites that are out of touch and don't know about football, so they set this up. I respect Newt, but I disagree with him. I think the left knew exactly what they were doing. Now, the people on the right on the bipartisan committee, because remember, we've got people on the right and on the left. Like I said, it's not a neutral group. It's a group of right and left. And left came into that knowing exactly what they wanted to do, and that was protect Hillary by making sure that as few people as possible see the debate when she is going to get her you-know-what tanned by Mr. Trump. So the on the right, they didn't realize what was happening. I think the left knew exactly what they were doing, and they put it up. They couldn't put all three up against football. That would have been too obvious. They put two out of the three. and hoping that they're going to have another thing like Romney did, where he did kind of well, or he did very well in the first one, kind of well in the second one, and then totally messed up the third one, if I remember rightly. So, but out of the three, right, he only had one very good one, and they're hoping that if Trump has a very good one, it'll be the one up against the football, and that Hillary can do a lot better in one of the, especially in the one where there's no football. But just so this thing about bipartisan and whatever. No, this was all planned. They knew exactly what they were doing. And talking about the lamestream media, I mentioned earlier they conveniently forgot about these Dems getting having to resign from the DNC. There's more, and this is talking about something, and I know I did mention it 2-3 weeks ago, about a very disturbing rape in Idaho, where some Muslim boys raped a 5-year-old girl. If I remember rightly, it was actually even a special needs girl, so who didn't really know what was going on. You don't hear very much about that, except, of course, when the left want to use it for a purpose. And apparently, Slate magazine published an article called, "If you want to live here, you need to live by the rules here." Now you sort of think, oh, well, that sounds like that's going to be, behave yourself kind of thing. This was written by a lady called Michelle Goldberg, and she subtitled the piece, "A Sexual Assault Case Involving Refugee Children in Idaho. A Microcosm of America in the Age of Trump." So now, of course, all of a sudden, with that subtitle, you can see what direction this whole article is going in. And let's remember, Slate is a very left-wing magazine. Well, I'd almost say what magazine isn't, other than the NRA magazine and, guns and hunting, whatever the magazine's called, things like those kinds of magazines. Everything else very, very left-wing. And it shows that Goldberg and Slate are using this case to basically to demonize the opposition to the policies that the regressives are trying to introduce, bringing in Muslim migrants. Right? They have to demonize the opposition to these policies because they want these migrants in. For what purpose, I don't know. Right? A lot of people say, well, it's because it's a natural voting block for them. Well, once these people become citizens, etc., possibly. But on the other hand, you think about all the danger, etc., and we've been through that. Trump talks about it all the time. I don't want to go into that. But what's very strange, so here's this article that supposedly says, well, you have to behave yourself when you get here. But Goldberg shows that she doesn't care about the rape victim. And I thought the left was all in favor of women and pro-women. Talk about a war on women. Absolutely no pity for this rape victim, but all think how we have to understand about these poor migrants, yada, 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 yada. In actual, that whole article, it's amazing how negative this left-wing writer is about the family. She really puts this little girl and her family on trial. I mean, she talks about, she tries to elicit comments from the mother about how she felt about having immigrants living next door to her, really trying to basically push the woman in a particular direction. And in the whole article, she doesn't actually say what awful, heinous things these boys did to that poor girl. Now, I can't describe anywhere near what went on there, because this show gets broadcast on terrestrial radio, and the FCC does not like the descriptions of the sort of things that went on. But believe me, they were very, very bad. When Goldberg quotes the mother and talks about asking her questions, she constantly is trying to push her in the direction of having an anti-refugee agenda. Absolutely disgusting. She equates these migrants that are coming in now to Cambodian refugees of the 1980s. Big difference between the Cambodian refugees. They were Buddhists, they were peaceful people, and these migrants that were being brought in with a very different political ideology. And regular listeners will know Islam is not a religion, or is not just a religion. It's also a political ideology. In actual fact, it is more political ideology than it is religion. And especially the kind of extreme Islam that we're seeing a lot of. They say that the truth comes out of the mouths of babes and idiots. And so these young children, right, and apparently the youngest was 7 years that sexually assaulted this 5-year-old girl, 7-year-old child. But just the fact, right, the truth comes out of the mouths of babes. So the fact that this 7-year-old boy thought he could do this and should do it shows what kind of teaching is being done in the family, in the mosque, for this 7-year-old boy to think that he can act like that, right? And I think the title, if you want to live here, you need to live by the rules here, but nobody's teaching him those rules. You'd almost say in some ways, it's sad because he doesn't know any better, but it shows you what that twisted, warped, religious, political ideology is actually teaching their children. You can do this to the infidel, to the kafir women. They are nothing more than animals. You can do whatever you want. You can live out your lusts. You can be violent to them. And like I said, I can't describe what he did, but believe me, it is the most disgusting, most unbelievable things that went on. Goldberg also talks to someone she identifies as the director of the CSI Refugee Center and a Congolese refugee himself, and she quotes him as saying, "The integration process happens faster here than in big cities. In small town like this, everyone knows everyone. People are approachable." Well, they may know everyone, they may be approachable, but we can add to that they're also rapeable. And then after that happens, the political and media machine comes to the aid of the rapists because they've swept this under the rug. In the article, Goldberg even says, refugee advocates insist that the vast majority of Twin Falls citizens support the newcomers. So she doesn't identify these advocates. She doesn't identify the vote or the referendum that confirms that the vast majority of Twin Falls citizens support the newcomers. And after they hear what these newcomers have done, do you really think they're supporting them? No. When we see what's going on in Europe, do we really want all these refugees coming in? No, because we need to check first what their upbringing is, what they've been taught, and if they believe in following Sharia law, which means that yes, they can do whatever they like to women, we shouldn't allow them in. But of course that's what Donald Trump's saying, and that's where the left get themselves into an unbelievable tizzy. Okay, folks, I see it's time for another break. This is going to be a shorter one because right now we don't have... I'm cutting down on commercials, but as I said earlier, thanks to the listener that did use one of the 800 numbers, but no 800 numbers in this part. We'll have another one a little bit later, but let's have a quick break here, and then followed by some music.
Patriot come lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
This is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, proud to be on Red Nation Rising Radio. These can be dark and depressing times, but Main Street USA finally has a competitive voice to traditional mainstream media outlets, and it's screaming at all hours, 24/7, we want our country back. America, it's time to wake up, expose the regressives, and keep listening to the new dominant force in conservative internet talk radio, the Red Nation Rising Radio Network, powered by ICRN. You're listening to Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, broadcast on the internet, and also available at archives.patriotcomelately.us, a proud member of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network.
Taking my country back, putting it back on the right track. Corrupt politicians making bad decisions, we all had enough of that. If our founding fathers could talk today, I could hear them say, take your country back, my friend. You gotta take your country back. Get out of my way or slip on this train. I'm heading to my Washington house to let those suckers know on election day I'm gonna kick most of them on out. And shout no more high taxes. We want a free market system. We don't like socialism. See, we believe in capitalism. And we love our children, and we love this nation. So let's protect our borders and protect our freedom. I'm taking my country back, putting it back on the right track. Corrupt politicians making bad decisions, we all had enough of that. If our founding fathers could talk today, I can hear them say, take your country back. Oh yeah, son, you gotta take your country back. Take your country back. Oh yeah, you gotta take your country back. Now Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Quincy Adams too. If you could go to Washington one more time, what would you say or do? I'd say no more high taxes. We want a free market system. We don't like socialism. See, we believe in capitalism. And we love our children. And we love this nation. That's why we wrote the Constitution, to protect our freedom. So start taking your country back, putting it back on the right track. Now corrupt politicians making bad decisions, we all had enough of that. If our founding fathers could talk today, I could hear them say, take your country back right now. Yeah, you gotta take your country back. I'll take your country back right now. Son, you gotta take your country back. Oh, take it back. Take it back. And put it back right track. Oh yeah, take it back. Oh, take it back and put it back on the right track. Oh, take it back, take it back, take it back, take it back and put it back on the right track.
And that was, of course, Take Your Country Back. I think a great song. Listen to some of the words. It's exactly what we need to do. Hopefully, if the regressives, the Washington elites, and the lamestream media don't derail Donald Trump, we will take our country back. They are just so scared of us taking the country back. That's why they're fighting like they are. And it's just like the Slate article that I was talking about before, right? That the lamestream media really not covered this case at all. And when Slate publishes something, very interestingly, it's used to demonize Trump, right? Because in the article, the author had written, this mounting demonization of refugees in Twin Falls has coincided, of course, with the rise of Donald Trump, right? Blame Trump, blame Trump. No. This is not a which came first thing. This is very obvious. It is the anti-jihad, the anti-Sharia sentiment. That's what led to the rise of Trump. It's people realizing that there is something wrong with just allowing these people to come in and act the way they want, not telling them they can't do that, not stopping them from doing it. They're just allowed to do pretty much whatever they want. That's what's given rise to Trump. That's why he's so popular, not the other way around. So you see how things get twisted. Talking about twisting things, lies, lies, and more lies. I mean, this is really happening a lot. And who are we talking about, of course? Yes, we're talking about the Clintons again. So lies, lies, and more lies from the Clinton family. So let's start off with the lies. And we know there are so many lies out there. They've been repeated many times about Hillary, her emails, Benghazi, the Clinton Foundation, Bill's speaking fees, corruption, in the State Department, yada yada. I mean, just unbelievable. But let's look at something recent. A couple of things. So first of all, this weekend, Hillary, after many, many months being virtually unreachable by any press, actually came onto Fox News Channel at the weekend and granted Chris Wallace. Now we've got to remember, Chris Wallace is a registered Democrat, as much as he's on our channel there that's supposedly fair and balanced, but he is a registered Democrat. So he answered some pertinent questions, I'll give him that, but I was a little disappointed that he didn't follow through on some of them. And I didn't watch the whole interview, I just saw some parts of it. But there were some specific questions that he asked about the fact that Hillary, out of the Benghazi inquiry, some things came out which basically showed that she had lied to Congress and to the American people. Well, he asked her about that and said, you didn't tell the truth there. And she turned around and said, well, I seem to remember Director Comey saying that I was very truthful and everything I said to the American people was true. And then, of course, you see the clip, and I know there's already one of the PACs has made a commercial out of this, showing her saying that, and then having Comey and Trey Gowdy asking them the question, and Comey basically saying, no, she lied. And there's 5 specific questions. So how she can get away with that, and how Chris Wallace actually let her get away with that. Kind of respect him for asking the question, but very disappointed that he didn't follow through on that. So that was one. But there's more, because more things are coming out now, specifically about some of the speaking engagements that the Clintons do, whether it's Bill, whether it's Slick Willie, whether it's the evil Wicked Witch, whoever's doing that. She was required by law, and also with her agreement with Obama apparently, to do federal filings saying where the money came from that she was getting for her speaking engagements, but also for Bill's speaking engagements. Strangely enough, most of the things that are in the federal financial filings are for small companies. Turns out that most of the time she is listing the agency that actually booked her or Bill for the speech, not who's paying the agency to pay her. So basically she is whitewashing this money. Talk about a gangster whitewashing money. That's exactly what she's doing, because she's listing a small company, so nobody knows really who paid. Now, in 1 or 2 cases, it's been investigated, they've been able to find out, and there have been people that you probably wouldn't want to have known that she was taking money from. But this is how she skirts the law and gets around it. Basically, again, lying to the American people. Is she transparent? Nope, no way. Okay, folks, I can see I'm late for my final commercial. There is a commercial here, so bear with me. I'll be back after these messages.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry, and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508. For Always Best Care, 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
You're listening to Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, broadcast on the internet, and also available at archives.patriotcomelately.us, a proud member of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network. Okay, folks, we're into the final minutes of the show. Time flies when you're having fun. So very quickly, a couple of things. First of all, at the convention, the DNC has been caught breaking federal law, violating Section 8 U.S. Code, paragraph 1324. How did they do that? They aided and abetted 2 illegal aliens on the first night of the show by putting them on the TV at 8 o'clock. I think it was 8:04 precisely, and 8:09. First of all, there was a young girl, basically, they call them dreamers because that's a nice way to describe them, who was accompanied by her mother, and during her speech, which was televised, the daughter explicitly said her mother is in the United States illegally, and it was clear there that the daughter also admitted to Hillary Clinton that her mother received a government-issued letter of deportation which of course she didn't follow. So can you believe that? Immediately following this mother-daughter act, another illegal alien took to the podium and said in a clear enough English, "I came to America illegally with my mother when I was 4 years old. We crossed the river Rio Grande on a raft." So also here illegally. Folks, can you believe that? They're actually proud of the fact. Now, these people came to Philadelphia, they traveled there. Who paid for that? Where were they staying? They were there at 8 in the evening. I'm sure they didn't go home. You know, one of them at least came from Texas, so they weren't getting in a Greyhound bus and heading off that night. So who paid for the lodging? Is that not aiding and abetting? Bring them to Philadelphia, aiding and abetting. Anybody going to indict the DNC for that? Don't hold your breath. Okay. A couple of quick topics before we close. Elizabeth Warren asking the question, what kind of a man roots for an economic crash that costs millions of people their jobs? Or that's what her actual words were, but you could also say, what kind of a man benefits from an economic crash? Of course, she was trying to point a finger at Donald Trump, but let's not forget who bankrolls Elizabeth Warren. Yep, spooky-doo, George Soros. The UK and Asia, huge crashes there, and who benefited from that? Yep, George Soros. Okay, folks, I see we've come to the end of the show. I hope you enjoyed the topics this week. I'd just like to remind you, if you want to reach me, email me at stephan@patrickcomelately.us or go to the website www.patrickcomelately.us. And remember, you can also donate to the show, which I would appreciate if you do that. And do come back next week. It's been lots of fun again this week. Time went very, very quickly, as usual. So do come next week. We'll have plenty of new topics because there's so much going on in the political world. But for the moment, I'm going to have to say TTFN. Ta-ta for now, and see you next week. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stephan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.